1 minute and 30 seconds. Just as folks kind of start to trickle in. Hope everybody's doing okay on this rainy day. To 5:31. I think we actually have sufficient. I think we've got critical mass. I think I'll do something a little bit different and start 30 seconds early, shake it up. I'm Karthik Balasubramanian. I am the chair of the Multimodal Accessibility Advisory Council. This council exists to be the voice for folks with disabilities, be that visual, auditory, or mobility, kind of across the gamut, just trying to make our transportation network in the district more safe, accessible, fair, affordable. I live in Ward 6 and work in Ward 1, and I have an eye condition called macular degeneration, which makes it impossible for me to drive, which puts me in the majority of people with disabilities in the district who do not drive. So I will pass it over to Kelly, and we generally just do a quick popcorning around, and then we can jump into our agenda.
Hi there, Kelly Mack, a Ward 3 resident, and I use a power wheelchair and do not drive. And I will pass it over to Matthew.
Hi, my name is Matthew. I am a resident of Ward I and work in Ward 6. I am deaf and using sign language interpreter. Thank you. I'll pass it over to Zachary.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Zach Smith. I'm District Department of Transportation Liaison to the MAAC, and I will pass it to my colleague, Stephanie Dock.
Hi, everyone. Stephanie Dock, also with the District Department of Transportation. I manage the innovation branch, which oversees autonomous vehicles and sidewalk delivery robots, amongst other activities. And I am a resident of Ward 6 and work in Ward 8. I think we're in Ward 8, right? I will pass it to Peter.
Hi, everyone. Peter Stephan, Director of Office of Disability Rights, member of the MAAC, MAAC, and resident of Ward 6. And I will pass it to Nalima.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you great.
Okay, great. I'm still trying to figure out the settings, but that's okay. I'm Nilima Ganta. Nice to see you all again. I'm the Deputy Director of DDOT.
Great, thank you. And I think, have we gotten to everyone? There may be a few others.
I can go real quick. My name's Ashton. I live in Ward 6. And some of my family members have disabilities, and so I try to attend in an ally capacity. And I think there was a 301 number that I saw join. So if that person would like to come off mute and introduce themselves. Otherwise, Mariana, I'm not sure if you're the other interpreter.
I am the other interpreter, but thank you.
Yep. I think that might be it.
This is Tino Calabria.
Tino.
Yes, I chair WMATA's bus rail subcommittee. I couldn't get on your Google link, but I'm on the telephone. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us, Tino. So I think we can go ahead and get started. So maybe what we can do is just jump straight into the agenda. We've got a couple friends from DDOT here that we're very excited to talk to. Unfortunately, the director can't make it today, so we've got the Deputy Director Ganta, and also Stephanie Dock to talk about AV policy. So maybe what we can do is we can jump right into kind of the questions that we had for DDOT, but and just kind of have a discussion from there. Unless, Deputy Director, is there anything that you want to kick off by saying?
No, I actually was hoping, I mean, I was prepared using your agenda or the questions you had, so we can jump right in.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Great. So one thing, and so Kelly and Matthew, feel free to jump in at any point with any questions, same way with Peter or Zachary. But I think I'm just going to share my screen and we've had, so the first thing that I want to kick off with is we've had a kind of very persistent focus on daylighting because it seems like there's not really any action, like proactive action that's happening. It seems like, on a, when we do big capital projects or kind of when we get to a certain area, then we'll address any daylighting issues. But there are things that are happening, like this is, from a Vision Zero perspective, like this is, one of the most like obvious things that is already in the law that we don't need to, ruffle any feathers, like we can just do it. So we did send a letter, MAACDC.link/daylighting. We sent this letter. Can folks see my screen?
Yep.
I was able to see something, but now I see Google.
Oh, how about that? Yeah, so we wrote this letter a couple years ago so basically kind of outlining, the issue and the statute and, basically how this is in both our municipal regulations and in the DEM and why we care so much about this. So this was kind of the canonical example that we showed where, if a car, or in this case a bus, is parked too close to a crosswalk, be that at an intersection or mid-block, then anyone who is trying to cross the street will not be seen and is not visible to people who are driving. And this is a super dangerous thing. And we have and because of that, we have law against this, where we need 25 feet between the crosswalk and parking. So and this is particularly important to us because people with disabilities sometimes are lower to the ground, sometimes are a little bit slower than the average person to walk across the street or roll across the street. And because they're potentially both lower and slower, something that's already dangerous for people who don't have disabilities is even more dangerous for people who do have disabilities. And this is something that kind of we brought up over and over, and we really would like to see some movement on this. We had asked for it to be, asked for kind of to create a daylighting action plan across the district. And we got a response basically saying, hey, just submit 311 responses, but even that is not really moving the needle. So then we created dangerousdc.org because we submitted 311 requests. So for example, even this one that was brought to the director's attention 2 years ago, like this was a couple weeks ago, where literally there's a car parked inside the crosswalk and buses are still parked right up against here. Even though the sign was moved, the roadway marking wasn't changed. So like these are kind of, this is a canonical example of like, the issues that we're having. But this is one, and this particular intersection this is exactly the same intersection where a student was killed by a driver. This is the exact intersection, and now we've got a car parked right up against the crosswalk. And I saw this, and there was a whole candlelight vigil, and there's DDOT walkthrough and all of these things, and it's just like this is like the type of stuff that we have to be able to fix in a proactive manner. Like this could just be a planter to stop this person from parking here and reducing visibility. Like this is exactly where we lost a student, and actually was one of particularly personal to me is a freshman in my department at Howard University in computer information systems and supply chain management. So that was kind of a heartbreaking thing. Similarly, just down the street there, here's another sign that's right up against the crosswalk. We submitted 311 requests. Sometimes these get closed with no action. Sometimes they're pushed off for a year past then. Here's another one where this is right next to the Metro headquarters, where there's a sign that's parked. That's a sign right here. And this just goes on and on and on. And we're just like, this is something that like, we don't really know what to do right now, because, we've written letters, we've submitted 311 requests, and we're just like, just like disappears and nothing actually happens. So we'll start there.
Yep. First of all, I fully agree with you 100%. There is no doubt in that. And I actually appreciate you being very civil about it. I would be very frustrated because I also submit 311 requests, and when it's not done, or it's not, like, the reason makes no sense, or sometimes there's no reason, it's just closed, I'm able to talk to that person. You're not able to. I get that. And yes, this is basic. I fully agree with you. And I put one-off requests myself and get it done. With that said, I did not see that letter. So I'm going to try and address, I think I wrote some notes. Let me try and see if I can address everything. I did not see the letter. I don't know if I missed it, but that's okay.
It might have been before. It might have been before you became deputy director. I'll put it in the chat.
No worries. I did see the agenda, and during my preparation, I did go to dangerousdc.org and I looked through everything. And at least I didn't get time to look through everything, but the first 4 or 5, you're spot on. That's wrong. So this is how it happens. I'm just going to be very realistic with you. There are so many contractors that do the work, or the city has been built for so long, where MAACDC standards have been so dated and it was built for that. And now we're slowly changing it. As you said, whenever we touch an area and we do a capital project, we fix it. But I do hear your point on having a proactive program. And I agree with that. It's just the year for money and we can't hire people. Like, that's just the environment we are in. But I fully agree with you. With that said, I want to address a few things. The planter idea, we have looked at it. The problem is the maintenance of the plants inside. So we are trying to shy away from anything that we have no money for. But I just wanted to address that. Yeah. The 311, 100%, at least the ones I've seen, are mistake. We would be doing a training for the entire organization on the new MAACD. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Federal Highway published a new MAACD in early 2024, January. And we had 2 years to come up with updates, because most of what they're proposing is not really, doesn't really work for an urban environment. It was not as multimodal as we would like. So we actually are pushing back and making it even more stringent. And we are in that process. We are in that back and forth process, and we are very close to getting it done. However, I did pull out the draft we submitted, and from a crosswalk, it will be 25 feet from the closest point to the vehicle. So it's not even from the midpoint of the crosswalk. It's more stringent. It's the nearest part of the crosswalk to the vehicle. And if there is no crosswalk, it would be the intersection of the 2 curb lines of the intersection, and 40 feet from there.
Right.
So that's what we are proposing. And on the farther side, it'll be 25 feet if there's a crosswalk, and 25 feet even if there is no crosswalk from the curb line. So that's a lot of information, but we are in alignment. The only place where I can't promise right away is the proactive program, only because of the funding and lack of my ability to hire people now. Yeah. With that said, contractors, maintenance crew, like, there are so many people that touch our streets within DDOT. There's a maintenance crew, that's repaving, that's contractors, different vendors. We are going to take the DC MAACD as an opportunity to train everyone. Like, once we release that, they all have to follow that. Otherwise, if they do work that does not follow that, we will be making them redo that again. However, my own staff need to know the new standards. So first I need to train them so that they can hold accountable. This takes a little bit of time. And I fully agree with you, but I just need that time. We are in alignment, and that's the standard that's going to be released probably in a month from now. But even without that, this is the right thing to do. So
I'm so sorry.
Promise to you.
I'm so sorry.
Go
Can you? There was a message in the chat to slow down just a little bit. Could you go back maybe
Oh,
like
sorry.
2 minutes and just repeat what you were saying? Just wanted to make sure that everybody understood what you were talking about. Sorry.
Sure, no problem. Let me see if I can copy
Starting with
paste
number
some.
feet.
Yeah, I'm going to copy paste into the chat as a graphic, which would be easier to understand. Give me 1 minute. Let me see. Where is the chat? How can I get access to the chat? Do I have access to the chat?
So in the bottom right-hand corner, there are 3 icons.
Yeah. Yes, but I still don't see in that an option for access to chat though.
Yeah,
I
or
don't
it's
know why.
it's the middle one of the 3 icons.
Yelima, if you want to Teams it to me, I can also drop it for you.
Yeah, I can't believe why I'm having this.
No worries. They're like, this is just
Maybe
Google
it's
Meet is a different platform from Teams, and it's all different. So
yeah, just feel it would be much more easier for everybody to understand if I just posted this. So Stephanie, let me do this, send it to you. And why don't you post it?
And Yelima, it sounds like it mostly aligns with what is on the Park DC website about clear zones, which also has a helpful graphic.
Yeah, but I want them to see
Grabbing it now.
What is it that we are proposing?
Figuring out how to properly grab it.
All right, there we go. I sent it to you, Stephanie, and you can, for some reason, I don't seem to have access to chat. Okay, hopefully you'll get that soon. How much ever I explain it would be hard. I think the graphic is going to be a better way to do this. Okay, so take a look at that and let me know if you have a concern with that, but that's what we are proposing. However, let me get back to, there are so many moving parts and we need to train people. My promise to you is to make sure that these rules get to the maintenance staff. I feel like the folks with the sign staff and repaving are the ones that touch them the most. So if they don't know that the pictures you're showing are not MAACD compliant, they may just close it. That may be what's happening. I have one question for you. Mr. Karthik, can you tell me what is the most prevalent complaint you have? I see that many have been closed, but if I have to pick 1 or 2 use cases, what are those?
Just putting the sign in the right place. I think that's that's the most important thing, is just because when there's a sign, so there are basically 2 types of issues. There's the type of issue where the sign is in the right place, but then someone is parked illegally against up against a crosswalk. So they're disregarding the sign. But even worse than that, though, is like where if the sign is in the right place, in the wrong place, then basically people think they're following the law, but actually the sign itself is illegal and basically encouraging people. And I feel like that is something that we just okay, if the sign's in the wrong place, we have to just move the sign, or even just take the sign down and put something temporary up. It just seems like this is such a a straightforward thing that would just follow the law.
Yeah, you're right. The part about the sign not matching the pavement marking, I know why, because 2 different teams do that, and it's completely in a slightly different contacting mechanism. But I'll make sure that I'm going to take 1 or 2 items in the top 1 or 2 items that you have in dangerous.org, and I will use them as examples. So let me get back to you on that, but that's the right thing to do. On the proactive side, I made a note of that. I have a few ideas, but I need to make sure that there are dollars to support that. So
Yeah. So that's basically just movement. I think the most frustrating thing is just we we put stuff out there and then nothing moves, even if it's slow. Slow progress is fine. It's just like just some progress, even if it's slow, is good. So yeah, so that's the thing that we wanted to. So we really appreciate your support on that front. Yes, go for it. You feel free to just unmute yourself and jump in.
There's a question in the chat from Heather. We could follow up with the question in the chat.
Oh, Heather, go for it. Yeah, just go ahead and unmute yourself. Oh, Heather, I think you're still muted. Oh, trying to follow.
I think I've got it now. Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Deputy Director, I didn't quite follow. I know about the updates to the MUTCD, but I didn't understand what it is that you're trying to change right now. And is that going to be in the updated MUTCD within a month? I didn't follow that sequence of actions.
No problem. There is a massive change to all signs, or many signs in DC MUTCD, which is still not approved. It will be approved soon by Federal Highway. As a part of that, we have to train everybody in DDOT. And this will be one of the things we will train them on. They should be doing it right now, but we are doing this massive training throughout the organization anyway. And I will make sure that this is something that we convey, make sure that everybody get it. And I'm also going to see if maybe through TSI program, every location we touch, we do daylighting as part of it. So there are some ideas I have, but to your question, I'm saying that we'll take that opportunity to train everybody within DDOT to make sure that they understand.
I thought you said that you were trying to change something. Maybe I misunderstood.
Maybe I confused everybody. We are trying to change a lot of different things that Federal Highway is proposing. And we are creating our own MUTCD, which is DC MUTCD. But based on what I heard, this is a standard for a long time. It's not a big change from what we have. But this is a new release where you're going to use this vehicle as an opportunity to train everybody. Nothing is changing. Nothing is getting worse. If you have access to the chat, Stephanie should have put in what we are proposing, which is exactly what we talked about.
I couldn't put the graphic in, so Karthik, I can either drop it directly into the minutes if someone can give me access, or I can email them to you after. But I did share screen to try and put those up if folks.
Oh, okay. I can share my screen too. Okay, let me do that right now.
And Nalima, would you like me to mention my pilot that I'm trying to do?
Yes, sure, go for it.
I don't know if you know about my pilot. This is why we come to meetings, to learn. It's quite nascent, but we are trying to use the sidewalk delivery robots. The QE bots in particular have been working with us on doing some data collection, and they are actually going to go out. One of the new projects we are trying to test with them is specifically to see if they can help us do accurate measurements of the sign locations so that they can collect this for us. It doesn't fix the infrastructure. I'll leave that in your hands, Lima. But it would give us a more systematic, if they can do it and we are able to scale, they can give us a more systematic estimate of how many of our intersections are non-compliant.
That would be fantastic.
Which is also part of the problem, right? Is if we don't know, we need to go out and fix it. And some of it is that our current sign database is accurate, but it's like where exactly the pin is dropped. Trying to do precise measurements off of that can be difficult inside just a digital. And so it's people going out in the field with a measuring wheel. And that's not an efficient way to do large scale data collection. So they're going to start probably in Washington Circle. Couple reasons that they're down there, but that was one. Although seeing those examples on Howard University's campus suggests that I should ask them for that zone as well. But we're going to test out whether they can do it. They're measuring a few different things for us this round, as well as doing some sidewalk condition data collection, which they've tested for us before.
Could I add one other thing, Karthik? I'm not over talking here. My experience, and I live right off 18th and Columbia, where the young nascent opera singer was killed about 5 years ago, is that, well, I've talked to Karthik about this. people don't understand the term daylighting, and people very broadly in my Adams Morgan neighborhood, which has now become higher income, they don't understand what the white sticks are. And so I know there's a financial constraint, but there's a dramatic need for information about the dramatic changes to the roadways and what these things mean. I do older adult transportation options trainings over in Ward 7 and 8, and people just have no idea. And so I can write to you about that, but this is Vision Zero used to have these wonderful sidewalk events about 4 or 5 years ago, and they'd bring out flyers and so forth that are explaining some of these changes. But you need to use, as former director Jeff Meridian would say, you don't use industry language to talk about this. And people don't know what daylighting is. They don't know what the white sticks are for. And so there's almost a preliminary step or a complementary step to what Karthik is raising. And some people have said DDOT can't do it all, and we've lost local newspapers, but it's a real challenge. End of diatribe.
I hear what you're saying. I get it. I can use TSI's website to make a bigger announcement about every TSI having this as part of every touch point we have. We can also use DDOT social media. We can share that with you, and you can share it with more people. I will also see if we can use HSO and Vision Zero team to do like an educational campaign, and also have a booth when we do like street closure. What is the event? It's escaping me now. So I can see if I can incorporate this into other events where we reach people. But I definitely understand. I see that daylighting, even first time I heard it, I had to look it up because it's not really connected to, it doesn't make sense. I get it.
You for that. Maybe we can move on to the next question and discussion on a letter that we sent earlier this year, put in the chat as well, on specifically around ensuring that buses are able to come flush against the curb so that people are able to step onto the bus more easily. So we brought this up with the bus team as well, with Jamie, and just for anyone who is kind of a more casual listener to our meetings and hasn't seen this, essentially the DDOT has it has what they call the Clear Lanes program. It's an automated traffic enforcement camera on buses that ticket people who are blocking bus lanes and bus stops, which is great, but it's reactive. Ideally we'll have some kind of more proactive measures, like, trucks that are just kind of coming in, towing people away if they're parked in a bus lane or a bus stop. But one thing that kind of there's been a lot of discussion about is many times drivers just simply don't know that they're parking at a bus stop. And when they park at a bus stop, a bus can't actually come be parked flush against the curb. And that makes it hard for people, for example, with wheelchairs to get on the bus. I've seen this many times where a bus just can't stop and pick someone up who's in a wheelchair because there's a parked car there. And obviously, we have people who will disregard anything that we tell them, regardless of the consequences. But this seems like a solvable problem for the subset of drivers who are parked there because they simply don't know. So what we recommended was actually just putting down the red thermoplastic at all bus stops, and if not all bus stops, to just high ridership bus stops, just so that people know that they are not supposed to be parking there. It's like actually a terrible idea to park there because it forces people in wheelchairs or other people who need to be able to step right onto the bus from the curb. They need to be able to, the bus really needs to be able to pull up against the curb. Yeah, so we mentioned the red, potentially the red thermoplastic, or you know, in New York City they use white and they call it a bus zone. We can do that, but basically some way to solve this issue of just alerting drivers that, hey, this is the bus zone. Do not under any circumstances stop or stand in this area, because you're going to obstruct the bus's ability to pick up people with disabilities.
Okay. Fully agree with this issue as well. It's completely agree. Fully, yeah, on board with you on that. Giving tickets to people who are in the bus zone is reactive, but it is a measure that pretty much no other city in the district has, in the country has. I just want to point that out, and we pay millions of dollars for that program. So it is something that you know, how many people can we send? How many enforcement officers can we send to make sure that we drive people away? We tried that for many years. You do that, then you go to the next place and they're back again. So because we tried all of those measures, you know, every bus fitted with a camera giving tickets was the next best thing we could come up with.
Yep.
Without breaking the budget. With that said, if I had an ideal city, that's what it would have. Red paint is one of the most effective ways to stop anybody from being there. It is not actually thermoplast. The material we use is called methylene methacrylate, MMA. And there is only one provider, at least that we can use, that comes once a year and does this work from, I think, California or something like that. Like, it's very special equipment, special mobilization. And the cost is around $17.55 or something like that per square feet. So I just did some quick math on 2,800 locations and the square footage, and it comes about 54 million to do it for all locations.
Yep.
And we are in the process of cutting the programs we have because we don't have money to pay for what we have to do. So that's just where we are now.
Yep.
And also the cost of maintenance for something like this, because bus stops do move. WMATA is constantly, even though they did the Better Bus network, they do constantly learn from their network and change stops, consolidate stops. So, which means you have to clear what's there, grind. It's a very hard process to get it off, and then kind of do it in a new place. So I'm just kind of like running you through the list of things that it'll be once a year. On top of that, yeah, for that reason, we considered it, and we decided that we don't have the money or the bandwidth to do that. With that said, bus only, the lettering bus only in the zone, that's something we really want to do, because that can be done by our own contractors.
Great.
We may start with the high-use bus stops. I'm trying to read what Jamie's update was on this. I think we're trying to do it on 8th and East Cap, Brentwood Parkway, New Jersey, and Edge. That's what he's saying.
That's great. I mean, I think
Yeah.
just in general, from at least from my perspective, and other folks can either agree or disagree, is just, I think the important thing is just to recognize the problem, and
Yeah.
even if it's a small, slow start, just start. Like, even if we don't have to do all 2,800 stops, we don't have to do all 7,000 intersections tomorrow. It's just, if we're just getting started, like, and just and if we have to do very heavy prioritization, maybe it's just the whatever the 10 highest clear lanes ticketed areas where these are the problem areas, or maybe it's only on the the bus priority network. And here are the first 10 places we do. That's fine. I think it's just when, like, there's no action at all, that's when, like, I think folks get frustrated.
You should be really happy to hear this. I used to run the automated safety camera program in my previous role as the Chief of Traffic Safety Administration. They still kind of are in my reporting line. But that's exactly what we did. We used the data from the cameras to prioritize the location with the highest violation. Our highest violations happen on Pennsylvania Avenue Southeast, 14th Street Northwest, and Columbia Heights. And they show up as hotspots. I kind of have a system now where it's coded in such a way that they kind of like come as, you know, the highest hotspots. And we have 2 TCOs dedicated to the highest hotspots where we do send people and they're dedicated to that location for that month. And then we kind of rotate them out. And again, we're using the data coming from Clearlanes to do this. Because at the end of the day, you put paint, you do all of that, still a person giving a ticket and calling DPW for a tow truck is the most effective way. It's just that I can't do it everywhere, right? So yeah, if there are other locations where this is happening, do let me know, but we are purely following Clearlanes data on highest violations for bus zones.
Yeah, it was. We mentioned this to Jamie. Like the one at there's a stop at 7th and H. I think it's right at the Chinatown north side entrance. That is already marked out with X's. And I've saw it before and I saw it after, and this is not always respected, but way more respected than it used to be.
Oh, with the signs or with the TCO?
It's actually they're just X's.
X's. Okay.
So they just put X, like white X's
White
out
paint.
on the on white paint on the pavement, and that alone stops. It's like a huge improvement. And now buses pull up to the curb almost always.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Great.
So thanks for the discussion on that. Yeah, so then we had a good discussion. Actually, I think you may have been a part of it. This is the Met. Yes. So any update on how that's going and kind of how how that's been implemented?
Absolutely. Of course, this one I know a lot about, actually. So we tested Georgia Avenue, 11th Street, Protected Bike Lanes, Minnesota Avenue, and 2 other tier 1 HIN projects that I did not write the names for just in this year, because it used to be an Excel tool, and because of how complex it is, there are about 100 factors spanning all of the modes that we are measuring instead of level of service and delay, which was 2 factors and vehicular. So it's a very complex model, and visually you have to kind of show it in a cross section so that we can use it to show people, it's a complex model is what I'm trying to say. So we are creating a web version of it. So right now we are testing that web version using all of these projects. But the projects that I just mentioned, we already finished testing, and one of them we actually used to make a story to the mayor on why Georgia Avenue makes sense, so we did use the model to talk to a politician to get an okay. With that said, in fall of 2020, we now have an SOP that every single high injury network project needs to be tested in the MET tool. So North Capitol Street, which just kicked off, New York Avenue, which is about to kick off, Firth Sterling, that's I think ranked number 14 high injury network. We already finished testing that. So all of the high injury network corridor projects, it's now a rule or a SOP, standard practice in DDOT, that you have to use the MET tool to understand compromises and shifting priorities between different modes and to hold us accountable. So that's really the update. With that said, my goal is by fall 2027, it'll be a public tool where you can use it to take a project that we're doing and try a different configuration and show us, like, that's my goal. But again, it's a very complex tool and it's breaking when we do certain things now. And again, it has not been done in the country before. So we are the first people. We are learning and failing and learning. So please be patient with us. But my goal is fall of 2027. The tool should be public.
Great. Thank you. And actually for Heather, we had a meeting on the multimodal effectiveness multimodal effectiveness tool. I think that's what MET stands for. It was in response to council passed legislation asking DDOT to not use LOS exclusively. And DDOT presented back in January to us about this new tool, basically, in response to folks like us asking for not just prioritizing people in cars, but also people in buses and walking. Yes, thank you for that update. Question number 4, it seems like there are a decent number of bus projects that are kind of just stalled or canceled entirely, like Florida Ave Northwest. Is there a way, can you give us an update on that?
Sure. I don't know if you're aware of the U Street bus project.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is to first finish that completely and then take on Florida as the next phase. So the idea is to put in U Street, almost use that as a poster child to show how effective it is. Because if we did the whole thing, the amount of backlash, we feel like the entire project could be in jeopardy. Rather, we want to do a really stellar U Street. It's currently in design, and then show that as an example of if we continued this and went on to Florida, like that is a better approach, we felt. Also because the team had lost many people, and I don't know if you know, anything locally funded is frozen for hiring if we didn't lose those positions already. In this case, I don't think we lost the positions, but we can't hire for them. So it has slowed down the work dramatically in the bus team, especially all planning projects. So other teams that can do planning are doing planning. That's where we are, unfortunately. But that is changing. But especially for this project, it'll be U Street first and then Florida after as phase 2.
Yep. Got it. Thank you. So actually, maybe if it's okay, Kelly, can I pass it over to you to take on the next set of questions?
Yes, certainly. So I think we're at number 5, and that is, how can the MAAC or disabled residents of DC become more regularly engaged with DDOT in public engagement? And so I think I met with someone about the AVs last week, and we sort of reconnected. I think there was a staffing change, but we kind of lost the thread on that for a year and a half as an example. And we just want to really keep in touch on these things, especially with the budget challenges and also with the technologies that we're starting to see, and make sure that they're accessible. That's just one thing, but just wanted to get some thoughts on you and about how we can keep it in the public engagement with DDOT.
Sure, Kelly. Am I speaking slow enough? Like, is everybody able to understand now? Okay, good. I tend to speak fast. So, Kelly, on this one, I really want to listen to you all. How do you have any ideas on how we can engage with you better? That's number 1. The second part of it, especially with AVs, that's why Stephanie's with me today. She can walk us through what is coming next and what her plan is. She's leading that effort. But first, I'm hoping to hear from all of you on what could we do better here.
I have one question, and that is I'm just thinking as being on the MAAC for a number of years now, I think one of the things that we struggle with is when something new is being started, we don't know, obviously, but we might be able to provide perspective. And so I don't know if there's some mode or method we could set up for just keeping us in mind as a resource for staff teams or projects to come to us with things that are happening, because we're often reacting to what we're seeing happening. I don't know if that makes sense.
Let me ask you a clarificatory question. So for example, MAACDC, something that's going to be updated, if everything goes right, it should be later this year. We should kick off that process, and we will be coming to the public because it's our long range transportation plan, our vision for DC for next few years. Would that when we do that, we assume, oh, that's good. We went to the public, we reached out, whether that's MAAC, anybody can come and have their views heard. Is that not enough, you think? Is that not working? Are you looking for some other ways?
I think maybe because we have this kind of focus on accessibility, that a focused meeting with that purpose is actually more helpful. But that may just be me. Karthik, Matthew, you may have other opinions, but
I totally agree. Just so, like, when there are, for sure move DC, when there's a bus priority plan update, when there's a when we have draft of the street reach framework, they came to us, that's great, but sometimes they don't, and that's where we definitely like to make sure that we're included always.
Okay. That really that makes sense. I appreciate that feedback. The one thing I can think of is we may not get it right all the time, because I know how these projects run, and sometimes we're in this mad rush. Not just mad rush. I should also say resources. We have one planner that's kind of leading 10 things, and they are maxed out on the number of meetings they can have. So that is becoming a real problem for us because of the people and lack of people, I should say. So definitely for Move DC, it's such a pivotal thing, such an important thing. I will make sure that I talk to the Chief of Transportation Planning, Sandra, to make sure that you're involved in that meeting. And there will be multiple rounds of meetings, so maybe she can have a conversation and include you at key ones and maybe not everyone. I mean, on every other one, you'll be open to the public and you can always come through that engagement. So maybe we can reach a compromise, something like that. But I wrote that down. Most of these come out of the planning team, and I know they are the ones that are hit hard by this whole freeze with no ability to hire. So with that said, I will talk to Sandra.
Well, that's helpful. Stephanie, did you have something?
I can also make an offer that my team, and as part of the Innovation and Performance Division more broadly, if it would be helpful, maybe we can just be like a quarterly standing item on your agenda. I don't think monthly makes sense, but if we could come in every 3 or 6 months and just kind of talk about some of the things that we're aware of. I will say some of them, like Lima suggested, they move quickly and then they move slowly. You haven't heard from us in a little while about personal delivery devices. Well, that was one that was moving fast and then slowed way down. And now we're moving again. And sometimes it's like, an idea's been percolating and there's only so many of us. So like we have finally written the scope for that project that to do the data collection, for example, and that's like hot off the presses. I literally just sent it to them for some comments. Like there's opportunities then, but if we kind of had these regular touch points, I don't represent everything in the agency in any way, shape, or form. But when you're talking particularly about some of these emerging technologies, my team is often connected in some fashion. And we are very interested in getting your input. AVs, quite frankly, largely went dark. We've been doing work, and I can talk about that later, but it's one where things kind of blew hot and blew cold, and we are back in the hot phase.
Yeah.
But we had been... I was working on other things for a stretch because things had gotten cold for a while. But I think if we have the regular touch point already coming in, then we can be looking for the items to come to you with, rather than trying to get into your cycle as things are fluctuating.
That would be super. Yeah,
I quite like that. And there are a few things that we really, really care about. So that's safety, buses, and emerging technology. Just because they're so important to accessibility and our work. So the bus team is actually already coming quarterly, and they're providing monthly updates. So that's hugely awesome. But yeah, any sort of cadence that you guys can come to us, that would be very much appreciated.
Yeah. if we can come off cycle from bus, then great. And yeah, I think I won't always have much, but happy to ensure that if we have the regular touch point, it just makes it that much easier to make sure that it happens.
Yeah, that's great.
For sure.
Fabulous.
Go for it, Kelly.
So number 6, we're at responding to increased pedestrian deaths at known dangerous intersections. And what's DDOT's approach there?
I'll take this one. In 2026, there have been 6 fatal crashes involving a pedestrian. As you all know, fatalities have increased compared to last year, but last year was kind of like a anomaly actually, because it dipped way down, and that's the anomaly. Not so when you look at the 3-year average, we are kind of in the same range actually. But just looking at the 6 fatal crashes that involved a pedestrian, 3 of those are on freeway, right? 50% of them. One is a police officer who was trying to help somebody and was struck by so anyway, he was in the middle lane of a freeway trying to set up the MOT, and he was struck. But the other 2 actually walked onto the freeway. So I'm just kind of giving you what we are dealing more and more. For example, this year's fatalities, I'm not talking just pedestrians, all fatalities, right? 10 out of the 16 fatalities we had this year, 63% of them involved reckless behavior, criminal activity, where somebody stole a car, running away from the police, running a red light, hitting a pedestrian that's rightfully walking with the signal. So that is the challenge we are facing. Most of you all, I'm assuming, know the safe system approach. Like for you to be for safety on streets, there are 5 things that need to happen. You need to have safe people who are not high on drugs or something else, who are fully vigilant, because a car is a weapon, right? Like, to be honest, you have to use it very vigilantly. And more, we are finding cases where, that's not happening. So safe people, safe behavior, following the rules, safe vehicles. Vehicles are getting bigger, and some vehicles do have blind spots. That's just the nature of, trucks and stuff. But overall, safer vehicles, but also I'm forgetting something here. Vehicles and safe streets, that's more of the design portion of it. Like, first of all, of course, you have to make sure there is enough visibility and all of that. So the reason why I'm saying that there are 2 more pies in this, one being, if a crash did happen, how quickly does EMS come and like rescue? That really matters. Every second matters. Because even if we did all of this right, we're all humans and errors do happen. The reason why I gave this primer is to say we are seeing unsafe people and more things that we are not able to control with engineering. And I'm not saying that makes us like we're walking away from it. It breaks our heart, but we are seeing the trend go up. Meaning people who are in some kind of criminal reckless activity causing fatalities and serious injuries is growing. Something to remember. It's bigger than a DOT. It's a health crisis, homeless. There are so many other factors associated with it. We'll put that on the side. But again, 3 of these pedestrians were walking on the freeway, and one of them actually was not walking on the freeway, but had an intention to commit suicide and was lying on the roadway. So that's 4 out of the 6. But the other 2 were really tragic, where they were following the law, they were in the crosswalk at the right time, and both of them were struck by people who were fleeing police. So we are watching this very closely, and I don't know if you know this, but we have a post-fatal work group that takes into account, we meet with the sergeant that attended that particular incident. We get the notes from them, and we go to that site with them, and we figure out if there is anything we can do, and we do it. And the other update I want to give you, again, my previous role was Chief of Traffic Safety Administration. So when I was in that role, we started this new process where any money that's allocated to a project, first we look at, is that on a high injury network? If not, why are we spending money on that? We also introduced something called pedestrian high injury network. And I mean, it was always there, pedestrian high injury network and bicycle high injury network. But now we've made that as part of the decision-making process. And this year we are about to construct our first project on Tier 1 pedestrian high injury network. It's on Marion Barry. So it's going to be built this year. So things are happening. We know that that has been a blind spot, and you should put your money where your mouth is. So if high injury network is important, we need to make sure that money goes there, and we are doing that. One other update I'll give you, within Traffic Safety Administration, there is a division called Multimodal Safety and Engineering Division. Christine Mayer is the AD for that. She may have come here in meetings before.
Yep.
She did? Okay. So she manages this program where she's the person who is kind of the authoritative figure on high injury network, and making sure that the funds are going to the right place. Not only that, she also manages the traffic safety input program, the ASAP program. I forgot what ASAP stands for, but we pick 25 intersections every year based on where the highest number of crashes are happening. We score it, and we take 25 and we kind of do a deep dive, and we come up with a design and a construction plan. One big change that's coming to that is we were always on the clock for like 25 intersections every year, but sometimes we can't design and build something in 1 year. So we're actually changing that model because such improvements are much smaller, and that's not enough sometimes. You have to reconfigure an entire intersection. We have to go deep, dig, utilities, all of that. So instead of just doing, pavement markings and something very basic, we are introducing this program where we go deeper, and it's a project delivered by IPMA, which means it's a big project, and that's what is needed to really make that intersection safe. So that's a new program that we added to the pipeline to address more complex intersections with high amount of crashes. But all the programs, the reason why I gave you all of these programs are run using the data of the crashes, the number of crashes and the highest crashes, and so on and so forth.
That's really helpful, informative, and I think it's good for just to keep in mind the mental health and criminality aspects of things, and are there other creative solutions across DC government that, and we can think about that some more. So the next question was about the accessible pedestrian signals at crosswalks, the audio signals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's some effort to add more of those, and we just want to see how that's going.
Yes. DC has, I know way too much about this. Again, also a team that reported to me, the signals team, but we are responding to an APS specific group. And I think in DC, 43% of the intersections are APS equipped. I'm not saying they're 100% up to standard and all of them are fully functional. I'm not saying that, but they are equipped, meaning we dug the conduits, we put the right equipment in so that somebody can press a button and is able to cross the street with audio, anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. With that said, our goal is to get to 100%, right? So just in this last year, I moved about $5 million to just do that. And we came up with a framework, first understanding of where we don't have APS. So we did that. And then where we do have APS, how full is it? Are we able to do it on all legs, not all legs? So now we have an understanding of that. The next step was to create a plan for, okay, we have about, I think, 600 locations still that need to be APS compliant. how can we kind of split this every year within the budget we have and maybe push that envelope even more to get to 100%? So we came up with a framework on that, which you will probably see soon, and I'm happy to share it next time around. I didn't think of bringing it now, but there is a plan, and I put in money again to make sure that this happens. Can I guarantee 5 million every year? I can't. But when this came to me, I felt like that's a problem. When we have money, we need to put into it and really push it, and we are doing that. And my goal is to do that every year. Maybe not 5 million, whatever I can find, I'll push it into that. With that said, I actually have a request for you all. When this particular set of people came to me about APS, I think they sued Chicago before us and New York before us, and their APS was, I don't know, some dismal state. It was pretty bad. We are at 43%, but they didn't even know what they have and what they didn't have. Anyway, they were quite impressed with where we are. And I actually am suggesting that they become part of MAAC, so that I felt like together there would be more synergy, and the needs are pretty similar, and it's a bigger voice. So I'm going to a meeting with them next week, and I'm going to recommend that they join your team.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so that's where we are. Let me see if I covered everything or I missed something. Here, they did give me the framework. It's based on the pedestrian volumes. This is how we are going to prioritize which intersections are taken on for APS design. And it's more complex than you think. APS design requires us to pull out the sidewalk, put the conduit in, and put the sidewalk back in, do the wiring, connect it to the cabinet. It's more complex. Even though it looks like nothing or very little, it's actually a lot of work. So we have to do design and all of that. So we take into account pedestrian volumes, intersection complexity, meaning the more complex an intersection, we will make sure that's prioritized, because that's where somebody that cannot see will be more challenged. High injury network, meaning how close or on high injury network it is, how complex signal phasing is, and also we will take into account a lot of resident requests, which means somebody who has the need is asking for it. So that also becomes part of the ranking system. And our goal is to do, right now we're doing 25 a year. My hope is to kind of double that. But again, I don't quote me on it, because it all depends on how much money I can find. I'm not getting a sustained fund to do this, but I fully agree with you, and we are on it. It's my priority too.
That's great. I think we're happy to see progress and commitment, so that's great. Next, do you want a bit of a break, and maybe Stephanie could provide an update about the AV goings on or not goings on, as it were?
Things are heating back up. Would it be, I guess, a baseline check how much? I have a presentation I can run through if you'd like me to. How familiar are folks on where things stand with AVs in the district, which determines kind of where and there I start?
I mean, I've been following it pretty closely, so maybe just what's happened in the last month might be what we need to hear, because it's been a lot, or more than it has been in a while.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I have other screens. This is new and exciting. Thank you. Unbeknownst to you, you have fixed the technology on my computer.
Oh,
Docking station just brought all my monitors back up. Of course, now the screen that I'm going to be staring at is the wrong one. Let me just I'll just grab the whole screen. Okay, so just for some reference, let's see. So we are particularly, so you've probably seen the Waymos around. This is the Zoox vehicle. We do not have this one here yet because they only use it in deployment. We don't have that, more coming. And just to say that in our work thus far, we are largely focused on level 4 and level 5 autonomous vehicles. These are ones that never need the human to intervene. It's just how much can they do, how much ground can they cover? Level 5, everywhere, all the time. This is the vision, nobody's got this yet. Despite what Tesla might tell you that your car can do. The level 4s are really what we've got, and
Trust me, it cannot do it. I've had Tesla since 2018. No.
Level 3s are an interesting space. Let's go get coffee or a drink sometime to discuss opinions on level 3s. I will not express my personal opinions here. Just to give some sense, the scale of what is going on has vastly grown in the last 2 years, even the last year. Actually, since I pulled this slide in March, service has begun in Nashville. So one of these dots has gone from dark blue to light blue. DC is on here as being up next for Waymo, as you probably know. But this is, as you can see, it's kind of a smiley face across the bottom for the actual deployment sites. And I apologize, the Zooks, they're really only in Vegas and San Francisco. I didn't get their sizes of their lines very far different. And Tesla, who knows where they're testing, but they are deployed-ish in Austin. And none of this touches on the trucks. I'm only looking at robo-taxis right now. The whole trucks are largely down here in the kind of the southwest and a little bit into the southeast. We are not a likely target for any long distance trucking things. Terrible idea.
Not a good
yeah, you don't bring a truck through the district if you can help it. We are last mile 99% of the time. So you know about our testing regs. We received your comments. Thank you. Ford was our kind of early partner with Argo. They left in 2022. And then in March 2025, a year ago, or a little over a year ago, Waymo said, we're coming to DC. We had no testing legislation, no deployment legislation. Zooks then decided in September to show up, apparently because they sniffed a market that was going to open. And as far as we can tell, we are a desirable market for these things. Congress has also been debating whether they want to step in. So this was back in January. The Republican side in particular is proposing a total preemption of the states. TBD, they're trying to maybe work it into the surface reauthorization. The bill at one point had Democratic co-sponsors. They apparently got mad at each other and it didn't, and they proposed the not so friendly version. There are some exemptions for the things that we can still control. But essentially, it would say that you can't regulate the AVs any differently than you do other types of transportation. So anything that you want in an AV, you'd have to be requiring across everybody. And the feds are responsible for the oversight. There's upsides to putting the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in charge of safety. The problem is that they don't know much about the operational realities on our roads. They did have a showcase back in March at US DOT's building in between. So there was a cyber cab was spotted. If you saw it in the district or any news of it, they have a steering wheel that they can install into it in order to drive it. They did have, the driving system was not engaged in DC. So let's see, some of these are things that you know. Sorry, this is about the deployment report. I just wanted to touch base because you all had asked about that. We had done some stakeholder engagement. I will fully own that I was supposed to get onto your schedule and I failed to do that. It is not to say that we have not talked with the disability community as part of this. Peter has been involved from the ODR side inside DC government, which is honestly where most of the outreach has occurred, has been inside trying to get a whole of government response to this. Externally, we did have a local stakeholder meeting and that had several members of the disabled community present, particularly some of the blind community. So that study is focused on level 4. We're looking primarily at fleet use cases and so a little bit of local delivery. And a key assumption we're going to have here, and this is going to come back up when we get to what council just introduced, is we are planning probably to recommend, because I can't promise what's in the final document until it's released, but a gated and scaled approach. That we don't think that you should start with robotaxis everywhere tomorrow, that you should step through testing to deployment, and that maybe you don't start everywhere and you really demonstrate that you can do this. And then we are really focused on policies that uniquely govern autonomous vehicles. There are places here where more of an industry-wide mandate, for example, electric vehicles it might be better just to slot into the overall industry shift as opposed, which things have changed in the last 12 months, but so it's not as good an example, but you know, specifically requiring electric vehicles when the industry has already pretty much entirely moved that direction in the autonomous space, we're not sure that we need to go there, for example. We did put out our research findings, and the report is long. It has a lot. And I can share this, the slide deck, which has a little bit of the summary that goes with that. I won't take too much of your time here, but we did talk to states, we talked to cities, and locally, we've been particularly, DDOT's leading this. We've been talking to lots of government partners, but just to know that DFHB has been at our side throughout this. The ride-hail space is theirs. That would be our recommendation, is it stays theirs. And WMATA has been an important part of this conversation too, though they're not inside DC Gov, so we don't 100% represent their views in where we're kind of headed. We represent them, but it's we want to make things work with transit. We're not talking about how Metro should change anything. And we did actually have anonymous, or kind of, one of our consultants did interviews with AV operators. I know who was talked to, but I don't know anything specific about what any one of them said. We are unique in our level of oversight for a city. We actually have the ability to do sticks. Most of the cities are preempted. Most of this activity is happening in cities when you look at passenger service. These are things that you know why we're special and why we're hard. And this is just a bit of the, like I said, I'll share these slides. So we were looking at some foundational requirements, certified operational design domain, that's ODD. And some of these are represented in the new legislation, but, oh, I lost the slides that had like what's happened. But the last thing to say that has recently occurred is that Councilmember Allen, along with Council members Fruman and I'm blanking on the third one. I think Fruman was one of them. Anyways, 3 council members introduced legislation to commercialize autonomous vehicle service. This is basically deployment legislation. It does not contain anything from our report because we're not done. So they have seen the research, but they have not seen what we are specifically recommending. And we will hopefully be talking about that during the hearing. There's some timing issues here of how early they're going to do the hearing and how ready we are, because this is a project that got hit by the budget constraints last year. We were targeted to be done mid-year last year and had kind of planned to finish socializing and figuring out and getting this ready for publication with a little bit more leeway. And then we had our budget taken away entirely. So the whole project just went on ice. And then it took us a little bit of time to get back up and running. And of course, the world had changed a bit around us. So that is partly why things have been so quiet, is that we haven't had any movement on the regulatory front and the project wasn't really active. And then once we got back up and running, our huge focus was on getting the research report actually written and out. That was a new addition to this project when we restarted in November, was trying to get the research out before it became too stale, so that if we ran into another delay in release, it wouldn't be so outdated. So that's kind of where we are.
What is the next thing that's going to come out? What is the relevance to it for MAAC, and how can they be part of it? Maybe.
So we will be putting out the recommendations for what we as DC Gov think should be in any future legislation. I will say, you saw some references in there. We're talking about, we've been calling them policy levers. We're not making, there are some specific recommendations on the core foundation of how you should approach this. Those items I listed, kind of, we should be permitting autonomy, we should be checking on it, we should be making sure there's law enforcement interaction. But we're not saying definitively this is how you should do the entire program, in recognition that a lot of this deserves the legislative debate. And what we want is to give information to the council to help inform that debate. We're a bit behind for where they have gotten, not gonna lie, but that's the intent, is that we are kind of leading to informed debate about things like how should you, we recognize wheelchair accessibility should be considered in this. We are also cognizant that there are almost no model. We've seen one example now. Qstraint has a system. It's installed in the Hold-On people mover that's coming into production that can do autonomous securement. Nobody on the like the kind of robotaxi side, as far as we know, has actively got this in their vehicles. And so there's this debate that I don't have a specific stance on. That is, do you let the service start and have supplemental wheelchair accessible, right? Or do you force them to only come in with wheelchair accessibility? And this is a place where your voices are more important than my voice, right? I want to clearly put out the challenge and represent that we hear different things as we talk to different parts of the disability community, right? There's a strong argument for why wheelchair accessibility is there. And then there's the timing constraint that we could have a service today that blind and low vision users could already be accessing. And so do we hold the whole or do we go? And so that's like one of those debates that I want to acknowledge. And I feel strongly that that is worthy of public debate and discussion. And that yes, accessibility needs to be required. The other piece is that that is actually much more of a DFHV question than a DDOT question, because our focus would be on permitting the autonomy and whether that system, I want to know that that system can see you in a crosswalk and respond appropriately, right? But how you ride that service is in Department of For-Hire Vehicles space, because they regulate the for-hire side. Personally owned, do I need to require that it be wheelchair accessible? Probably not. I'm not excited about wheelchair personally owned. Sorry, I'm excited about wheelchairs. I'm not excited about personally owned autonomous vehicles. So, right, there's the autonomy piece and how the service is provided. And we are capturing DFHV's role in this and their take, but this is one where I don't think there's a single voice speaking on this in some regards, and very much welcome the MAAC to strongly represent their views to council as that hearing comes up.
Great. We've been working on a letter with recommendations and pretty specific language. So we're hoping to get that out very shortly. I know that I didn't see anything mentioned about accessibility in the Allen legislation, which disturbed me greatly. I'll just say that personally in a public space. So if anyone wonders. And so I hope that, and I was on a meeting with DFHV yesterday about accessible cab service and brought it up there. So I'm hoping that all of us together can come and find solutions, or at least proposals to a pathway, and appreciate that it is a multi office sort of approach that we need to be taking, and many voices and different kinds of disabilities that we need to be considering. So
yeah, I mean, and I'll echo that. So we have a letter queued up that we're going to pass today, or hopefully pass today. And I mean, personally, I'm very excited about the potential safety benefits of just having fewer people who randomly make U-turns or stop in crosswalks or whatever. Like all of these things that we see our current fleet of rideshare and taxi drivers do right now. I'm very excited about that. But at the same time, if nobody puts their foot down for accessible wheelchairs or wheelchair accessible vehicles, then we're not going to see it anywhere. And this is this is something that I've personally struggled with. But I think the right thing to do is to kind of put our foot down and say, hey, it is possible, and some of the smartest people on the planet are working on this problem, of autonomous vehicles. This has to be a solvable problem, and I think through our regulation or even through our just debate can maybe speed that innovation up. The other thing that I wanted to also kind of flag too is we've seen, at least there was a WAPO article, I think last year, where, even Waymo, wouldn't stop for pedestrians at a crosswalk, or, they think that, like, coming into bike lanes and letting people off in bike lanes is okay. And just because that's kind of common practice now. And yeah, it is common practice now, but it's also super dangerous. And if we codify that, we do not want to codify that in the algorithm, because that's basically saying, like, we're okay with this and we're not okay with this. So that's another thing that, like, in our data collection requirements, I think we should be asking them to provide the number of times that they're coming and dropping off people in bike lanes, the number of times that that they didn't stop for a pedestrian in crosswalks, the number of times that they exceeded the speed limit. All of these things should be captured by our data collection requirements during their testing phases, because we really don't want, like, there's a bright future potentially, but it also could be, a very mediocre future where we're not seeing the safety, as much of the safety benefit as we could.
If I could give you two thoughts on that. One, agreed that the data needs to be there. And we actually are just today put out the initial announcement. It's like a soft launch to attract interest, but we've got a research funded pilot project to try and see if we can get a camera or LiDAR based system at an intersection that essentially can record the autonomous vehicle movements and help then compare them to the human driver movements and see. So one, we'd be watching all of the AV movements, but then also building that baseline of human behavior, because that's often the benchmark they're using. Whether it's the right benchmark is one thing, but I'm also looking for cases where their behavior, because that system is trained nationally, doesn't match the standard behavior here in this region, right? There's expectations, there's differences. And so it's a way of giving factual, like actual observed data to what we might call the ANIC data, the anecdotal reporting that is going to come in. For example, I had a staff member go to San Francisco and say that I was on there and that Waymo turned that corner so fast it almost ran my toes over. Okay, well, that's really important to know, but does the Waymo always turn the corner that way? Did it really turn it that fast? I mean, I believe my person, but it doesn't tell me like how fast, right? It just tells me that they thought it was too fast, that the proximity to the human, it didn't perceive his movements right and all that. And but that's hard to go back to them with. And so I wanted actual hard observed data in partnership with the university who can help me with the trajectory analytics in a very impartial way to be able to build and tell that story. And two factors there. I'd also, as part of the pilot, we want to build up community understanding in the area where we're deploying this, which is the Southwest and Navy Yard areas, so that they can have a more informed conversation with us. The community engagement component on that project has not started quite yet, because we are still probably at least 6 months out from the technology being deployed. And so we wanted to kind of sequence these things so that when we're telling people what we're going to do, we're not in the amorphous, there will be tech, but instead, this is how we're going to watch. These are the measures that we're going to be using. So particularly anybody who is in Southwest or Navy Yard would welcome, you recruiting folks to come to this, but also happy to bring the MAAC in as another interested party on that. The other piece I'm trying to make sure that we get is the industry to not avoid the area because they know that we're watching. And then the long-term hope would be that if we can figure out how to do this well, we can then implement it across the city so that this just becomes a standardized way of watching, particularly if we are beginning to put out more detection devices as part of like larger traffic signal upgrades where we want to be able to use that information. We have a whole network of CCTV cameras. How could we use those potentially? We do know the license plates of the vehicles. even now without our testing regs. And I send them periodically to the automated safety camera team to make sure that they haven't gotten any tickets. That would be a red flag.
Yes.
And not that I can pull them off the street right now, but it's something we're watching. That's another way we're trying to watch. And then as we move towards greater deployment, trying to think about methods for people to give feedback of just making sure that the line is open so that you can tell us when something's not working right. Whether that be 311 or another reporting form, we're doing something similar with the sidewalk delivery robots as we prepare for more deployments of those. And so more to come on that one. I know we're at time today, so I should probably plan to come back to talk to you all about the PDDs, the sidewalk delivery robots, personal delivery devices. But you've heard from us before the basic concepts of what we're doing there, and we are hopefully doing the accessibility tests for the new applicants in the next month. So thank you to anybody who volunteered to support that.
I did, so happy to help.
We're still lining up dates, so apologies that you have not heard back from us yet, but you will, because that's coming. But all of this is trying to think about how we get the feedback and show that we're watching. We're also in the regs proposed to get the mobility data specification that would give us the breadcrumbs of the vehicles and all their movements so that we can really understand. But yeah, the dropping off in bike lanes is one of the exact things I want those cameras to be able to see.
Perfect. Great, thank you. Maybe I can squeeze in one more, and then we can move into our kind of internal session, and that is kind of the real need for mid-block PUDOs. There really aren't that many accessible PUDOs, especially in the downtown core. And as we're doing the downtown transit or transportation study, or maybe that's OP, but hopefully to the extent that DDOT is involved, like that is something that, like, you know, there are folks who need to be able to be dropped off, and accessible or ADA only mid-block PUDOs is something that we really need in order for folks to be able to get off safely in the mid-block. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And might be more important with the AV implementation.
Yes, absolutely.
This is the one program where I don't have hands-on, like I don't know as much about it, but I've been kind of involved in the peripheries of it. We are kind of moving, we are not going to call it PUDO per se, pick up and drop off. It's more termed as a short-term parking program.
Yep.
And I don't know if you're aware of this, but we piloted this in busy commercial areas as a 10-minute parking windows with mobile payment, that kind of thing. And trying to see, and they did some nightlife parking restriction pilots in 2024, 2025. I don't know how that's relevant here, but anyway, they're saying that the team is saying that we've done a lot of pilots, we learned from it, and they'll be, what they're saying is they'll be reassessing all of the PUDO zones in 2026. That's what is happening. With that said, I also read in your question, or maybe in their answer, something about making the PUDO zones that you're requesting for ADA accessible mid-block is something I heard.
Potentially even ADA only. So basically the only people who are allowed to use these are people with placards or wheelchair accessible vehicles.
Generally, we have them, I think, at the ends of the block, if I'm not wrong, but you're saying the middle of the block is what you would prefer?
Yes.
Okay. I'll definitely let them know, because I think right now it's at the end of the block. Any reason why I'm trying to understand why middle of the block is better than the end of the block, where you would have a crosswalk and other protected ways to get around the other side?
Because oftentimes that involves blocking the crosswalk itself for everyone. Whereas if it's mid-block, it's kind of specifically and only for, and it's not obstructing any sort of other pedestrian movements.
Okay.
And I'll add, as a wheelchair user, it's a little more out of traffic. Because I'm used to the whole getting off in the middle of traffic on a corner, and sometimes it's a little hairy.
Got it. The one thing I will say, if it's in the middle of the block, is the expectation to have an ADA ramp in the middle of the block. So that's where the challenge really comes in, probably where we disagree a little bit. I've had a location where DDOT did not build it. We don't build ADA ramps in the middle of the blocks. There's a reason for that. But a church built it without letting DDOT know. And the way we knew is as a lot of jaywalking people in scooters and bicycles, just kind of shooting across 4 lanes or 2 lanes. And in this case, I think it's 4 lanes. Because they don't have to go to the signal, they can just get to the sidewalk or wherever they want to go in the middle of the intersection, middle of the segment, roadway segment. And that actually caused a lot of issues. There was a bike lane that's also going along the roadway, and there were some crashes. And when we dug back, it was never something we put in. The church, I think, illegally, I would say here, made that change. So having seen that and not see it work anywhere else, and the expense part of it, ADA ramps are much harder than we think. So they're now part of the standard design we do at intersections, but not really at the mid block. Because I personally feel like putting it there would attract certain behavior that would then create new conflicts. If people want to get on there and they're jaywalking because they see that without a protected way to get across, it is now creating other conflicts with all modes. So for those reasons, I have a big pause here. And the expense part for sure. If you're only talking about signing the location, so there's a PUDO, like a disabled parking spot in the middle of the block, that makes sense. But providing a ramp at that location, that will be more challenging.
So I have less of a strong opinion about this particular thing. Kelly, feel free to jump in. I do have a strong opinion that right now, parked car, just a line of general purpose parking is the most inaccessible thing for anyone to access a curb. So that's why we feel so strongly that there needs to be ADA only short-term parking. Whether it's at mid-block or at the end of the block, there are so few of these spaces that are ADA only, and I don't think there are any ADA only short-term parking. There are some ADA only red top meters, but the ADA only short-term pickup and drop-off locations, I don't think there are any actually.
I've not seen any, but yeah.
So we do have a meeting with Curbside in August. So we're definitely looking forward to having a robust discussion with them. But I wanted to just flag that.
No worries. It's always a pleasure to meet you all. I've learned a lot. I wrote a lot. I think my biggest takeaway is to really dig into the first question you asked and really figure out what's going on here. Hopefully the next time I come, I can give you a better update and you can yourself see the change in 311. But it's 1,600 people and it'll take some time. So, but you have my word. I will work on it.
Thanks so much for all of your time.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And Nalima and Stephanie, we really appreciate it and looking forward to staying in touch.
Yeah.
For the rest of MAAC, if we can just stay on. Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. We can just stay on very quickly to consider the letter that we've written for AV. I would propose, if there's no, and actually feel free to push back on this, Kelly and Matthew, I would propose that we use the letter that Kelly finalized on April 24th, because I think that was a little bit more robust. It's this document here.
Real quick, did you see Sharon's revision?
I did. I did, and I
prefer the original.
I do prefer the original, just because I feel like we're more like it's more robust. We talked through more issues. it's also like, and we lay out why too. That's just my thought. I could be convinced on Sharon's revision, but I just wanted to put that out there.
I'm open to either. Matthew had to drop, and he said he
Shoot.
reviewed it, and he's okay for us to send out, but he didn't say which one.
Okay. Okay. Do we have?
Is it possible to put the letter on the screen, or I can't access it in the chat? Sorry.
Yeah. Nao, do we have? I didn't realize that we lost Matthew.
I have the one that's Sharon. Oh, hold on.
Let's. Do we have Matthew's number now?
No, we don't have his number.
Dang. Okay. Okay. Let's see if we can get him by email. So maybe
we have a meeting with him on Friday. So
okay.
Perfect,
So we can.
perfect.
So like. So do you have? So maybe what we can do is actually like we can pre-approve. So Kelly and I can both vote on both letters. I'll say yes to both letters.
Me too.
And
I
then
just want to get something out.
yeah, I totally agree. So yeah. So then when we meet him on Friday, then he can basically say yes to either or both. I do have a preference for your letter, Kelly, if that's okay. So if he says yes on that, then I think we can send that your letter.
Okay, great. And I think, Mayo, I think I sent you a list of contacts for DC Council, and some of them are include the staffers. So I think doing that whole list, if we could, that would be ideal.
Okay.
And I'm happy to do follow-ups. I want to make sure council is engaging with us on this. So I don't mind being a bit proactively assertive. So if that's needed, I'm happy to step up and do that.
Perfect. Cool. And actually, maybe Kelly, are you interested in joining? It's good, basically about community involvement on Friday. That way we can just we can talk to Matthew all together. Is that
sure? What time is that?
That's at 2 p.m. on Friday.
I can do that.
Okay, I'll send you the invite.
Okay, thanks, Dale.
actually? And I realize that I don't have the invite either. Would you mind sending that to me?
Yeah, definitely. You should have it, but I will definitely make sure that you're added to it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. I think we're good. Thanks. I think we can go ahead and adjourn. Thanks everyone for staying a little bit late. And for some of us, we'll talk on Friday. Otherwise, we'll talk on the second weekend or the second Wednesday of June. I think that's June 10th. We'll have the DPW director, and we will look forward to a great meeting. So thanks everyone. And this concludes our May 2026 meeting of the Multimodal Accessibility Advisory Council, and see you next month.
Thanks all.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.